Hey there, I'm Rose. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today, I'm going to be telling you my top 5 favorite movies of all time. And Bagel is here because she's adorable. Who would not want her here? Number 5, Coco. This is my favorite animated movie. I can't even begin to describe how beautiful Coco is. The animation is just so good. The way everything looks is just so important in getting across what they want you to know, in terms of tone and things like that. And that may seem really obvious because almost all movies do that. Almost all movies have every single tiny little detail so careful and perfect for specific reasons, but it just seems so obvious in Coco how much care they put into it, in a way that you can't see in many other movies. And I really love at the beginning, I don't know what they're called, but those paper things on the string, and it's showing the backstory of his family. I love that. That's my favorite part of the movie, even though it's barely even a part of the movie. It's just great, and you learn so much from it, and in a way you could only get from an animated movie. And I think all Pixar movies are like that. Of course, because they're animated for a reason, but Coco is the #1 and best example of it, and also the songs are so good. My favorite is the song at the very end. I don't know why people don't appreciate it more, because it's just the best. I also want to point out this movie made me cry twice. And I don't mean I watched it and it made me cry, then I watched it again and it still made me cry. I mean the first time I watched it, I cried 2 separate times, because this is just a really emotional movie. A spoiler alert, I'll show you where to skip forward if you don't want spoilers for Coco. But Hector is starting to fade away, and oh my gosh, it is so sad and so scary and so intense. And I didn't think that was possible in a movie that's targeted towards young children, to have that kind of emotion in it. And then Miguel goes back to his family, and he's trying to get Mama Coco to not forget Hector, and that's just such a powerful moment. And obviously the whole movie is building up to that, but it just hit me so hard in a way not many other moments in movies have. It's so hard to do, but they did it perfectly. And when he is playing Remember Me on the guitar, and she says that her dad used to sing that song to her, oh, that is when I totally lost it. Number 4, Mary Poppins. This may seem like a weird thing to put on a list of my top 5 favorite movies of all time, but I really love Mary Poppins. You're probably thinking, isn't that a silly, fun little movie for kids? And it is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not good. First of all, everyone loves the songs from Mary Poppins. They're pretty iconic. And also, the story, it may seem really simple. It's a lady who has magic who's taking care of children, but it's so much more than that, because it's also about the kids' relationship with their father, Mr. Banks. And I haven't seen it in a long time, even though it's one of my favorite movies, but I definitely need to rewatch it again, because it's fantastic, obviously, and also because there's a new Mary Poppins movie coming out, Mary Poppins Returns, which I'm really excited for, because Lin-Manuel Miranda is in it, and I love him. And I'm really excited to see what they do differently and what they do the same. I know it's not a remake, so it's not going to be as similar as a lot of other recent Disney movies that are remakes, but yeah, it's just gonna be really cool to see what aspects of the original movie they keep for the new generations, because it isn't a normal sequel, because it's 50 years later. That's not something that happens Like, usually sequels come right after. So this is really weird, but I'm really excited for it. And I mean, it's kind of like sad that they waited so long, because if you haven't seen Mary Poppins, in some of the scenes, there's a mix between real people and animation. And I don't mean like CGI, like it's like cartoony, like it isn't meant to look real, it's meant to look like it's animated. And like it's supposed to look fake, but it's like a part of their world, if that makes sense. It's kind of like in Pete's Dragon, the original one. And that was really revolutionary at the time, but now it's not. And that kind of makes me sad. And I don't know why, it just does. Number 3, The Conjuring. I just saw this movie for the first time really recently. I watched it on Netflix. And, because I was, like, on a horror movie binge. Like, I watched a bunch of them in a week. And, I stumbled upon The Conjuring. Well, I didn't really stumble across it because I'd already heard of it. Like, I wasn't, like, seeking that movie out. It just came up in my recommended, so I was like, sure, I'll watch it. And oh my gosh, it's the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. And for that reason only, it is my number 3 favorite movie, because horror is my favorite movie genre. So of course, the movie that scared me more than any other is gonna be one of my favorite movies. So obviously the best thing about this movie is how scary it is, but also like the way that it's scary, because it is such a unique movie. Because there isn't a lot of like blood and gore and killing and stuff. There's not even a lot of things that happen in the movie, yet it still manages to be terrifying. Like just in like scene, like this one scene that I think is the scariest. This lady like is hearing noises at night, and she thinks it's like her kids like awake past their bedtime, so she goes out to look for them, but they're all asleep in their beds and she's still hearing it. And like, oh, that alone, like it creates this like really good tension, and like there's nothing happening, yet it seems so significant because of like the way it's framed in the movie, and it's just so well directed. And then like she goes downstairs and she's in the basement, she thinks someone's in there, but she can't find them, and then the lights go out. I don't remember what happens first. Do the lights go out first, or does the door close and like hit her and like make her fall down the stairs first? Anyways, those two things happen. I don't remember what order. And she's like down in this dark basement, and like obviously that's really unsettling, because we know that there's something going on in this house, but we don't know what. And it's just not knowing that's scary. Like, a lot of horror movies rely on, like killing and blood and violence and monsters and all that kind of stuff. But this movie does not need anything. It just is scary, like, with nothing at all. And I think that that's amazing. Number 2, Catch Me If You Can. This is another movie I saw for the first time really recently. We watched it in my criminal justice class, and I knew I would like it, but I didn't know how amazing it was going to be. It's based on a true story, which I love. The Conjuring is based on a true story too. I love movies that are based on true stories. Basically, what Catch Me If You Can is about is, in case you don't know, because you probably don't, because it's kind of an older movie, like from the 1900s, and it's not that popular, but it's about this guy, Frank Abagnale, and he's a teenager, but he's super smart, he's a genius, and he runs away from a home because like his parents are getting a divorce, and like they're losing all their money and stuff, and it's just like a really difficult time for him. He doesn't know what to do except go, and he starts making like fake checks so that he can get as much money as he wants. And like he like pretends to be a pilot, and he pretends to be a doctor, he pretends to be a lawyer, and he just does all this really crazy stuff, and he's making millions of dollars because he wants to help his family. And like it just, everything he does is so clever. Like, he's not a normal person at all, and I don't just mean he's not a normal person, he's a criminal. Like when I said he was a genius, I was not exaggerating. Like he knows how to stay one step ahead of everything. He always knows what his next move is going to be. And even during the times when he doesn't know what his next move is going to be, he figures it out like that. And it's just amazing that this actually happened. Like, obviously it's not amazing that, like, he was a criminal and he stole millions of dollars from banks, but, like, it's amazing that he's so smart. I forgot to mention this, he's played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's, like, really young, because the character's a teenager, and he actually was a teenager at the time, which I love. I love it when teenage characters are played by teenage actors. It's just so much more authentic than anything an adult actor could do. But he's not the only amazing performance in this movie. This FBI agent, Carl Hanratty, who's kind of trying to track him down this entire time, and does eventually catch him and arrest him, is played by Tom Hanks. And everyone knows he's awesome. And the movie's directed by Steven Spielberg, so like with those three people, how could it not be great? And my number one favorite movie, the best movie of all time, is A Quiet Place. Obviously, my favorite movie is a horror movie, because horror movies are my favorite movies. But, like, this movie especially, like, totally stands out from the rest of the genre. Like, even though I like horror movies in general, like, I'll only really like a specific movie if it does something new. Like, and I don't just mean new, I mean extremely new. Like, nothing like it has ever been done before. That's why I like The Conjuring. It's just like, it's like a more subdued horror movie, if that makes sense. And A Quiet Place isn't like that. It's unique in a different way in that there's not much sound in the movie because it takes place, in case you don't know, after the apocalypse. There are these creatures, and they will kill you if you make noise. So the family has to use sign language. They have to find ways to live in a very quiet way. And like they have a farm, which is really lucky actually, that they can be self-sustaining like right off the bat. They already know how to do all this because they already have this farm that's like powered by solar panels. So like they're pretty well off. Like that's why they survived when barely anyone did. Another advantage they had is they already knew sign language because Reagan, their daughter, is deaf. And it's just so interesting to see like all of the little things. Like there's really obvious stuff they do to not be loud, like using sign language. Like every single tiny little detail of their lives has to be changed because they can't make noise or they'll get killed. And it's just really interesting to see all the things they do. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll show you where to skip to if you don't want spoilers for A Quiet Place. But when the dad, Lee, dies, that is my favorite like moment out of any movie ever, because just the impact it has on the audience is like unbelievable. Like throughout this whole movie, like there's a subplot about like the dad and Reagan having a strained relationship because she feels responsible for her little brother's death at the beginning of the movie. And she thinks her dad doesn't love her. And her brother, who is still alive, are in a truck. They're about to be killed by one of these creatures who's on top of the truck. And the dad tells her that he loves her, and he's always loved her. And then he sacrifices himself so the kids don't get killed. He gets killed instead, and they escape. And like, sometimes, like, I tear up just thinking about it, even when I'm not watching the movie. Like, that is how emotional this is. It's not a normal horror movie whatsoever. Like, sure, The Conjuring does a lot of new, unique stuff not a lot of horror movies, do or did up until that point. But A Quiet Place is, like, so much more than just a unique horror movie. Like, it transcends the genre. Like, it's not just a horror movie. It's also about a family and how much they love each other and how far parents are willing to go to take care of their children and keep their children safe. and it's just like the best of both worlds, because it's like a pretty scary movie. There's like a lot of really intense scenes to keep you on the edge of your seat, but also it's this very emotional story about love and family, and I really like how it can do both things equally well. Like, you would think a movie that tries to be like a family movie, like a heartwarming message, and a horror movie would fail because it would do one better than the other, but A Quiet Place does both of them like almost perfectly, which I really appreciate. And the sound design is so unbelievable. Like, the way they decide like what sounds to put, and the background music that's playing, like when there's going to be music, when there's not going to be music, and how when a scene is meant to be from Reagan's point of view, it's completely silent. It just really adds another layer to the movie, and this movie wouldn't be that good if the sound design hadn't been so careful and deliberate, and they hadn't hired such an amazing team of people to do it. Also, the sounds that the creatures make are vegetables being crunched, which is hilarious. Like, they like manipulated the sound of like people like crunching up vegetables in their hands, and that's the noise the creatures make. And I love that. So those are my 5 favorite movies of all time. Comment down below what your 5 favorite movies are, because I'm curious to see. I think you can tell a lot about a person by what their favorite movies are. So that is where I'll be wrapping things up today. Remember to come back next Friday for another new video from me. And remember that God loves you very much, and I do too. Bye! Bye!